Why I would never train without this piece of equipment. Welcome to our Strike channel. My name is Rob Zab and I am an ISK British kickboxing champion. In today's video, I'm going to tell you why I would never train without this piece of equipment. So, hand wraps. Hand wraps is like the most underrated equipment out there. People think you don't have to wear them, when in reality you do. If you want to keep your hands safe and you want to perform in any combat sports for a long period of time, you need to keep your hands safe. Hand wrap will protect you both your wrist, your knuckles, and will allow you to get on with your daily tasks without having any injuries. When you wrap your hands, what you're doing is you're maintaining that wrist alignment and you're securing all the soft tissue and bones in your fist. Because when you punch, you don't want any knuckles to pop out. When choosing your hand wrap, the one thing I like to go for is something with a little bit of elasticity, stretch into it, so it's not too rigid. So when I wrap my hands, it's not too tight, not too stiff. 4.5 meter long wrap, because that's long enough for me to cover my wrist and my knuckles. A Velcro strap that's the width of the actual wrap, because when you buy wraps, the first thing that tends to go is the Velcro itself. Those are the three things I'd suggest you to look out for. And Valor Strike wraps has got all them basics covered, and that's why I use them. So let's get cracking with it, guys. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna wrap our hands. We're gonna take the wrap, put our thumb inside the thumb loop, and make sure the little seam is facing down to our wrist. And now we're going to go round the wrist 3 times. This is how I've been wrapping my hands for years, okay? It's helped me, so it's definitely going to help you. So once I've wrapped the wrist 3 times, I'm going to connect my wrist to my knuckles, and I'm going to wrap the knuckles 3 times again. When you wrap your knuckles, make sure your knuckle sits directly in the middle of the wrap, because if it goes too far back or too far forward, it's going to slide off, and then you won't have any protection on your knuckles. So I'm going to go around the knuckles 3 times. 1, 2, 3. From there, on the 4th time, I'm just going to connect my wrist, so my knuckles to my wrist, and then I'm going to go underneath the wrist and go wrap my thumb. Once I wrap my thumb, so go over, underneath, and back towards the wrist. I don't want to pull the wrap tight back, because it's going to cut off the blood circulation, because my thumb's natural motion is to go down. If I pull it back, I'm trying to keep it up now, so we don't want that. We want a slight little pull, and that's it. Another thing what this is going to do is it's just going to keep the wrap in place and keep the thumb loop in place as well. So from there, once I've wrapped the thumb, I've gone around the wrist. Now I'm going to connect my wrist to my knuckles and go through my fingers, my pinky and my ring finger. So now, because I've connected my knuckles together, I'm also going to separate them. When I do punch, my opponent can feel it. Feel the all might of my hand. So now, once you've gone through, never go across underneath your palm, because what that does is it blocks you from making a full-on fist, which I'll show you at the end. So you're going to go through pinky, ring finger, that's the one, I keep forgetting the names, towards your index finger, and then you're going to go back towards the wrist, back of the wrist, creating a little X. And you're going to repeat that process till you've gone through all the fingers. So then I go ring, middle finger, back towards index, create another X. Then it's middle finger, index finger, back towards the wrist, creating that last little X. Yeah, so once I've gone around there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up towards the knuckles, and I'm just going to go round and wrap the knuckles 1 more time or 2 more times, depending on how much wrap I've got left. So here, wrap around knuckles. You don't have to do this part, I like to do it just because it tidies up the wrap, makes it look nice and neat. And then I'm just going to finish the rest of the wrap around my wrist. Make it nice and secure. Now, I'm good to go. There is a slight movement in my wrist once I wrap my hands, but you want that, you don't want it to be too rigid, because when you throw your shots, you want it to have a little bit of movement. It's just because your body's supposed to move, so you want to be enough so there's slight movement, but you don't want it to move so you can actually strain it. Right now, if I'm pushing on it, it's not bending, I'm not going to get any injuries, because the wrap is keeping me in place. Another thing you want to look for is when you buy your wraps is if they got cotton label or Velcro. Because when I buy my wraps, that's what I look out for. I've used wraps with like rubber or like little plastic on it, and I feel like it's causing me more wrist injury than actually protecting it. That's why I use Valve Strike hand wraps, and I've used them for the last several years, and they've always done the job right. Okay guys, so here's Rob's eye view. Okay, we changed the camera angle so you can see better when I wrap my hands. So we're going to start with the thumb loop. Okay, make sure that the seam is facing down. Thumb loop goes on our thumb. Okay, seam's facing down. We're going to go back of the wrist. When you go around the back of the wrist, make sure you don't pull your thumb loop back too much, okay? Because the natural motion of your thumb is to go down. If you pull it back too much, you're basically making it go the opposite way or opposite direction. And what it does, it cuts off the blood circulation. So once you start training, it's going to start feeling a bit numb, stiff, and then you have to unwrap your hands and redo it. So when you do this, just slight tug, and that's it, secured the wrap in its position. So now let's go start wrapping our hands. We're going to go 3 times around our wrist. That's 2, 3. Once we've gone around the wrist, what we're going to do is we're going to go around our knuckles. So we go 1, we're going to go 3 times around the knuckles. When we wrap our hands, make sure the knuckle sits in the middle of the wrap, because if you go too high on your fingers or too low on your fist, it's going to do is it's going to move as you put your hand inside the glove. So then the wrap is going to move off, and it's not going to really secure the knuckles. So once I've gone around it 3 times, I'm going to go back towards the index finger and go back towards the wrist, so connecting my knuckles to my wrist. From there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap my thumb just to secure my thumb in its position. Keep it nice and tight. Once again, we do not want to pull that thumb too tight, because we're just going to cut off the blood circulation, which we do not want. Once I've gone round the thumb, round back of my wrist, I'm going to start wrapping through my fingers. What I'm doing here is, when I went through, wrap my knuckles, I secured all the knuckles in one position, so that when I do throw my strikes, the force of the punches gets dispersed evenly throughout my hand, where not just absorbed into individual knuckles. But what I'm doing now is I'm basically separating them. They're still connected together, but I'm going to separate them, so when I do land my strikes, my opponent can feel it a bit more. So as I go through my fingers, I'm going to make sure I go back towards the index finger. You do not want to go down here and obstruct your palm, and I'll explain to you why at the end. But we'll just go through your fingers, back towards the index finger, then back of the wrist, towards the wrist, creating a little X on top. And I'm going to repeat that process through all fingers, okay? So I'll go through my ring finger, middle finger, back of the wrist, my middle finger, index finger, towards back of the wrist. Now here, I can finish the wrap on my wrist if I want to, but what I like to do here, here I can finish the wrap on the wrist. But what I like to do is, you don't have to do this, but I like to do it to make it look nice and neat. I'll go around my knuckles one more time to tidy it up, and then I'll finish the wrap on my wrist, making sure that the label ends up on the wrist. Okay, so from here, I'm good to go. So the reason why we don't come across when we wrap our fingers is because it creates a cushion on our palm. When we make a fist, it doesn't allow us to close the fist fully, so we can't get that full force into our punch. So here, I can just roll this back, roll my fingers in. Okay, now I've got a nice little grip, keep it tight, strong fist, and I'm ready to go. So that's my right hand. I'm going to do the same process on my left hand, just so you can see it, and then you can look at them both. So I've done my right hand, and now I'm going to go through the same process on my left hand. Once again, start with that thumb loop, don't pull it too tight, and then go around my wrist 3 times. That's it. Once I've gone around my wrist 3 times, I'm going to go towards my knuckles, connect my wrist to my knuckles, and go over my knuckles 3 times. Apologies for this camera, just trying to do it my best. There, I'm going to connect knuckles to the wrist, wrap that thumb. Once again, don't want to make it too tight. Go back, and now I'm going to go through them fingers. Okay, go back towards the index, creating that X at the back of it. I'm going to repeat that process for all fingers here. And then last one. And then from here, we can finish the wrap on the wrist. Well, like the way I like to do it is just tidy it up. Just makes it look nice and neat, especially when you do filming like this. And then you finish the wrap on your wrist. Nice and simple. Okay, perfect. See, the Velcro on this wrap is perfect because it covers the entire width of the wrap. You get some wraps that the Velcro is a small amount, and the first thing that always goes on any hand wraps is the Velcro. That's the first thing to go. So with the Valor Strike ones, I like the fact that they got the Velcro on the width of the whole wrap. Okay, so this is how I wrap my hands. Roll it up, make a good strong fist. We're ready to go. Thanks for watching. Hope the video helped. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow my fight journey on Instagram at Rob_Zab. See you soon. Boom.